You think I wanted your money, Adrian? Maya's voice cracked through the storm as rain slid down her trembling hands. I wanted you to see me, just once, like I was worth being loved. The Atlantic wind bit through the morning haze as Adrian Cole stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the tide roll in against the cliffs below. His reflection stared back, crisp suit, empty eyes, a man sculpted by precision and loss. The world knew him as the Adrian Cole, the youngest CEO to build a luxury property empire from scratch, the man who made and broke fortunes before breakfast. But in the quiet moments, the ones without boardrooms or contracts, there was only silence. Silence and that familiar ache he'd learned to drown in numbers and deadlines. A sleek black folder lay open on his desk, labeled Cole Wedding, Julian and Victoria. Every detail of his younger brother's wedding was there, from imported orchids to the champagne brand. He was paying for everything, but his heart wasn't in it. He hadn't spoken to Julian properly in years. Family had become a word he avoided, the way some people avoid mirrors. When his assistant, Clara, entered to confirm logistics, Adrian only nodded. Have the staff rotation finalized by tomorrow, he said, voice even, distant. The estate must be spotless. No errors. Not one. Down in the lobby of the same skyscraper, the hum of vacuums and mops filled the air. Maya Torres hummed a gospel tune softly under her breath, a melody her grandmother used to sing while braiding her hair. She moved with quiet grace, pushing her cleaning cart through the marble hall, her dark curls tied up, her uniform pressed as neatly as if it were silk. She didn't see herself as invisible, though most around her did. Years of working night shifts had taught her that people look through janitors, not at them. But invisibility, in its strange way, had become her armor. It let her observe the world without being judged by it. Still, some nights, when she watched the city lights from the subway window, she wondered what it might feel like to be seen again. As she wiped the edge of the elevator doors, a man's reflection appeared beside hers, tall, sharp-suited, face unreadable. She stepped back instantly. Sorry, sir, she murmured. Adrian didn't reply. He simply pressed the button for the penthouse floor, eyes fixed ahead. The elevator doors slid shut between them with a metallic whisper, a barrier of worlds. But just as the elevator rose, a faint echo of her humming lingered in the air, a sound so gentle it startled him. It had been years since he'd heard anyone sing without purpose. Later that evening, Adrian returned home to the Cole family estate, an oceanfront mansion gleaming with light. The wedding planners buzzed like bees, setting up tents and chandeliers. Every inch of it screamed perfection. Yet, perfection exhausted him. Julian's laughter rang across the hall as he practiced a speech with his fiancée Victoria. Adrian paused in the doorway, watching his younger brother's easy charm, the warmth in his gestures. They had once been inseparable. Before the accident. Before the money. Julian looked up, meeting his gaze. For a heartbeat, something like softness crossed his face, then hardened. You didn't have to come early, Julian said, voice tight. I own the house, Adrian replied flatly. I'm entitled to be here. Victoria, ever the peacemaker, stepped between them. Let's not do this now. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow. Can we try to make it pleasant? Adrian gave a small, practiced smile. Of course. But his eyes lingered on Julian's expression, disappointment laced with old pain. That night, in a small apartment across town, Maya carefully folded her mother's blanket and turned off the radio beside her hospital bed. Her mother's breathing was soft, steady, a small miracle in itself. The night nurse nodded as Maya whispered, I'll see you in the morning, Mama. On the walk home, the city smelled of rain and coffee. Her phone buzzed with a message from her supervisor. Extra crew needed for a private estate event this weekend. Pays double. Interested. She hesitated only a second before replying. Yes. It wasn't until later, when the assignment sheet arrived, that she noticed the name. Cole Family Wedding, Seaview Estate. Her heart skipped. That was his name, the man from the elevator. She remembered the look in his eyes, controlled, cold, unreachable. She didn't know why that bothered her. Have you ever crossed paths with someone so far from your world, yet something in you knew that meeting meant more than coincidence? At the estate the following morning, the staff buzzed with preparation. Trucks arrived, decorators hung garlands, and chefs barked orders. Among the uniformed cleaning staff, Maya stepped out of the van, her first glimpse of the ocean glinting behind the mansion's glass walls. And there, standing by the railing in a charcoal suit, was Adrian Cole, unreadable as ever, wind tugging at his hair, phone pressed to his ear. Their eyes met briefly across the courtyard. Neither spoke. But in that instant, both felt it, a strange, inexplicable pull. Two worlds, colliding by accident, or by design. The storm hadn't come yet. But you could feel it in the air. The day of the rehearsal dinner dawned with a kind of brightness that didn't last, sunlight sharp as glass, a wind that carried a warning. The Cole estate looked like something out of a magazine, ivory roses lining the stairs, crystal chandeliers suspended from tents that fluttered like sails in the breeze. Inside, the staff moved in coordinated silence, a waltz of efficiency and nerves. Maya Torres, dressed in a neat navy uniform, was assigned to the East Wing where the catering crew prepped for the evening. She kept her focus sharp, her steps quick, her mind disciplined. The rich had a way of watching people like her, searching for flaws. Still, when she passed the grand mirror in the foyer, she couldn't help but glance at her reflection. Clean uniform, hair tied high, eyes bright but cautious. "You belong anywhere you work hard," she whispered to herself. In the ballroom, Adrian reviewed the layout with his assistant, pointing out imperfections invisible to anyone else. "Shift the table 2 inches to the left. The symmetry is off." "Sir, everything's already aligned." 2 inches, he repeated, without looking up. Clara sighed quietly and nodded to the staff. Adrian's gaze swept over the room, pausing only when he caught sight of Maya, who was arranging floral centerpieces with meticulous care. She didn't see him at first. The light from the window caught her skin, the faint shimmer of sweat on her forehead from the work, not glamour but grace. Something about her composure, her quiet rhythm, tugged at a memory he didn't want to revisit. He turned away sharply. "Let's keep this moving." By afternoon, the guests began to arrive, laughter, perfume, and polished shoes echoing across the marble floors. Maya moved through the crowd like a ghost, unseen but always in motion. She carried trays, refilled glasses, wiped the small messes people left behind as if their carelessness were expected. She was clearing a champagne spill near the piano when a voice startled her. "You sing," said a smooth baritone behind her. She froze, turning slowly. Adrian stood a few feet away, holding a glass, his expression unreadable. "I've heard you," he continued. "In the building. You sing when you clean." Maya blinked. "Oh. I didn't realize anyone could hear." "I could." His tone was neutral, but his eyes softened briefly. "It's unusual." "Unusual." "For someone to sound so," he paused, searching for the word. "Alive. While doing something so dull." Maya smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why I sing. To remind myself I still am." He didn't reply at first. Something in her answer lingered between them, raw, unguarded. He was used to people speaking to him in measured tones, voices shaped by fear or admiration. But this woman, she spoke as if he were just another person. "I suppose that's a useful trick," he said finally. "It's not a trick, Mr. Cole." Her gaze met his, steady, unflinching. "It's survival." He looked away, the conversation ending as abruptly as it began. But the words didn't leave him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the ballroom transformed into a blur of laughter, crystal, and music. Julian, radiant in his tailored suit, stood at the center of it all, charming, confident, everything Adrian used to be before life hardened him. When Julian noticed him standing alone near the bar, he clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You could at least pretend to enjoy yourself, brother." Adrian smirked faintly. "I'm enjoying the efficiency of the event." "That's not the same thing." "It's close enough." Julian's smile faltered. "It's never close enough with you anymore, is it?" The words landed like glass breaking quietly between them. Before Adrian could respond, a sudden commotion broke through the music. Gasps rippled across the room. Victoria's designer gown had caught a splash of red wine. Panic spread instantly. "It's ruined!" Victoria cried, gripping the fabric. The catering staff froze, no one daring to act, except Maya. She stepped forward, calm but decisive. "Ma'am, if you let me," she said softly, kneeling. She grabbed a cloth, soaked it in soda water, and began to dab the stain with practiced precision. The crowd watched as the crimson faded, leaving only the faintest blush. "It'll dry perfectly," she said. "You'll be photo-ready in 10 minutes." Victoria blinked, relief flooding her face. "Thank you, what's your name?" "Maya." "Well, Maya, you just saved my night." A ripple of laughter and applause followed. But as Maya stood, brushing her hands on her apron, her eyes caught Adrian's. He was watching her, not as a boss, not as a billionaire, but as a man seeing something true for the first time in years. Their gaze held longer than it should have. Later, as the guests drifted toward the terrace, Maya stepped out to the servants' entrance to catch her breath. The night air was cool, the ocean black and endless. She heard footsteps behind her. "You handled that well," Adrian said, stepping out from the shadows. His voice was lower now, less guarded. "Part of the job. Most people would have panicked." "Most people don't have as many stains in their life to clean," she said, half smiling. He almost laughed, a sound that felt foreign even to him. "You're not like the others who work for me." "I get that a lot. Usually from people who stop talking to me right after." There was silence, the kind that carried weight. The kind that said both knew they should walk away, but didn't. Finally, Adrian spoke again, quieter this time. "You shouldn't have to work this hard." Maya turned, meeting his eyes, not with defiance but truth. "Neither should you." For a second, something broke open in him, the mask slipping just enough for her to see the exhaustion beneath. But then, footsteps approached from inside. Clara's voice echoed from the hallway. "Mr. Cole, they're waiting for you." He straightened, the walls coming back up. "Good night, Ms. Torres." "Good night, sir." He left. Maya stood alone, staring out over the ocean, the waves crashing like thunder in the distance. For the first time in years, her heart wasn't quiet. It beat faster, not out of fear, but recognition. Have you ever felt someone see you for the first time, not for what you do, but for who you are? If you believe moments like that can change a person's life, don't look away now. Stay. Some stories deserve to be felt, not just heard. He told himself it meant nothing. He'd been tired, she'd been bold, that was all. But every attempt to bury the thought only dug it deeper. In the mirror, his reflection stared back, immaculate suit, perfect tie, empty eyes. The man everyone admired was just scaffolding. The human underneath had been abandoned long ago. He straightened his cufflinks, muttering, "You're not that man anymore." Downstairs, the service team buzzed through breakfast preparations. Maya moved quietly among them, folding linens, checking silverware. The glamour of last night had faded. Today she was back to being invisible. Yet the memory of Adrian's laughter, short, uncertain, human, still lingered like warmth in her chest. "Hey Torres," her supervisor called, waving a clipboard. "Mr. Cole's got new orders. You're on detail in the West Wing, conference room set up for a meeting." Maya blinked. "With him?" "Who knows? Just don't screw it up. The man breathes perfection." Her pulse quickened, though she couldn't say why. The West Wing was sunlight and silence. Maya adjusted chairs, polished glasses, and tried not to think about the conversation on the terrace. When the door opened, she didn't need to look up. She felt his presence before he spoke. "Good morning, Ms. Torres." "Mr. Cole." She kept her tone even. "Everything will be ready in a moment." He nodded, moving past her. For a few beats, the air was thick with things unsaid. He wanted to ask about her mother, her singing, her life outside these walls, but the question stuck to the back of his throat like guilt. "Will you be attending the ceremony tomorrow?" he asked finally. She glanced up, surprised. Staff don't usually get invitations. It wasn't an invitation. It was curiosity. Maya smiled faintly. "Then no. I'll be here, cleaning up after everyone else's celebration." His jaw tightened. "You sound bitter." "I'm realistic." Adrian looked away, pretending to review the schedule. But her voice, calm, self-assured, scraped at the armor he'd built. He envied her resilience. She seemed to survive on truth while he survived on denial. That evening, Julian found him in the study, sipping scotch. "Still hiding behind work?" his brother asked. Adrian didn't look up. Someone has to make sure your fairy tale wedding doesn't collapse under its own vanity. Julian laughed, but it carried an edge. You talk about vanity like you don't live in a penthouse made of glass. Adrian's eyes flicked to him. You think money is vanity. I think it's protection. From what? Adrian hesitated. From needing anyone. Julian's expression softened. That's your problem, brother. You think love is a weakness. It's not. It's the only thing that makes the rest worth it. The words struck harder than they should have. Adrian drained his glass, ending the conversation. But as Julian left, his parting words lingered. It's not too late to be human again. Outside, Maya walked along the servants' path toward the supply shed. The night was humid, air thick with the promise of rain. She replayed the morning's encounter in her mind, his questions, his restraint. Part of her wanted to hate his coldness, another part pitied it. She stopped at the edge of the cliff garden, staring at the endless water below. For a moment, she imagined throwing every weight off her shoulders into the sea, the exhaustion, the invisibility, the longing she couldn't afford. Don't fall, came a voice behind her. Adrian. She turned, startled. I wasn't going to. He stepped closer, stopping a respectful distance away. You shouldn't wander out here alone. The cliffs are dangerous. Everything worth seeing usually is. He almost smiled. You have an answer for everything, don't you? Only when people ask the wrong questions. They stood in silence. The wind tugged at her curls, the sea roared. Something heavy pressed between them, unspoken recognition, unwanted attraction. Why do you keep talking to me, Mr. Cole? She asked softly. He hesitated. Maybe because you don't talk at me. Everyone else does. She nodded slowly. Maybe you should let someone in, then. He inhaled, then turned away. I can't. Can't or won't. But he was already walking back toward the house. Maya watched him go, a strange ache blooming in her chest. She told herself it was pity, but deep down, she knew it was something far more dangerous. Later that night, she wrote in her small journal, a habit she'd kept since childhood. He looks at me like he's forgotten how to feel. Maybe that's what scares him most. Have you ever met someone who ran from what they felt, even when you could see it in their eyes? If this story makes you ache for the ones who build walls around their hearts, maybe stay. Maybe we're meant to keep feeling this together. The storm rolled in without warning. By noon the sky had turned the color of slate, and the sea hurled itself at the cliffs with a sound like breaking bones. The wedding coordinators panicked, trucks were rerouted, power flickered across the coal estate. When the first lightning strike hit the grounds, the generator failed. The mansion went black. Adrian stood in the foyer, jaw tight. Get everyone inside. No one leaves until it's safe. Staff scattered to secure the property. Maya, carrying boxes of glassware, froze as thunder shook the walls. In the dark, a chandelier swayed above her. She reached up instinctively, and the crate slipped. Careful. Adrian's voice cut through the noise. He caught the falling glass before it shattered, his hand brushing hers. For a breathless moment, the world was nothing but their two silhouettes in the flash of lightning, his white shirt, her brown skin glowing with the reflected stormlight. You all right? He asked. I'm fine. He looked at her hands, trembling slightly. You're lying. I said I'm fine. But she wasn't. Her pulse raced, her chest tight. Maybe from fear, maybe from the way his concern didn't sound rehearsed. Come on, he said. The East Wing's got candles and blankets. I should stay with the crew. They're safe. Humor me. They crossed the empty halls by flashlight. Rain hammered the windows like fists. In the library, Adrian lit candles until the room glowed gold against the darkness. Shelves of leather-bound books surrounded them, an island of calm in a drowning world. Sit, he said, motioning to the couch. I'm not a guest. Right now, you're someone who almost got hurt on my property. That makes you my responsibility. She exhaled, sinking onto the edge of the couch. You always talk like that? Like what? Like you're still signing a contract even when you're being kind. He almost smiled. Maybe it's the only language I remember. Maya studied him, the tension in his shoulders, the faint scar along his jaw. You used to remember another one. He looked up. And what makes you so sure? Because people who don't remember how to feel don't save falling glass. He laughed once, low, surprised. You don't make things easy. Life didn't, either. The candlelight flickered between them, painting soft light on his face. She saw the exhaustion etched there, the loneliness he'd hidden behind order and wealth. Hours passed. The storm raged on. They shared coffee heated over a portable burner, the aroma curling through the room. She told him about her mother, how the hospital bills kept rising, how singing kept her sane. He listened quietly, eyes steady, no trace of pity. Then she asked, "Why did you stop coming home after your parents died?" He stiffened. "How do you?" "I overheard Julian once, talking to the planners. He said you blame yourself." Adrian's throat tightened. "I was driving that night. We argued about money. They left angry. The crash happened minutes later. If I hadn't—" "You can't live inside that moment forever," she said gently. "It's the only moment that ever felt real." Lightning flared. For a second, she saw tears he didn't wipe away. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his hand. He didn't pull back. The warmth of her skin seeped into him like mercy. "You've built a life out of punishment," she whispered. "You deserve one built on peace." He looked at her, really looked, as if seeing daylight through the storm. "Why are you helping me?" "Because someone should." The silence that followed was thick, alive. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, time slowed. Later, when the rain softened, Maya stood by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. Adrian joined her. "You ever think storms wash things clean?" she asked. "Or destroy what's left standing?" he said. "Maybe both." He turned toward her. "Maya." Her name sounded different in his mouth, warmer, uncertain. The distance between them shrank until their reflections blurred into one shape in the window. He caught himself, stepping back. "I shouldn't." "I know." Neither moved for a long moment. The candles flickered out, one by one, until only the sound of rain filled the room. When morning came, the estate was drenched but intact. Staff reappeared, laughter tentative, the worst past. In the library, Maya folded blankets, Adrian gathered candle stubs. Neither spoke of the night. But when their eyes met, there was no mistaking what had changed. Have you ever been trapped with someone who made you see yourself differently by dawn? If this storm made you feel the quiet between their words, don't look away. Staying means you still believe people can change. The morning after the storm was bright, cruelly bright, as if the sky were mocking how easily the world could return to normal. The Cole estate hummed again with preparation. The wedding was one day away. Adrian sat in his study, eyes fixed on the ledger in front of him but seeing none of it. He could still smell the candle wax, still feel the faint imprint of Maya's hand. The rational part of him screamed to forget it. The human part, newly awake and terrified, couldn't. When Clara entered, he snapped the ledger shut. "The vendors." "All confirmed," she said. "But there's gossip." He frowned. "About?" "Staff talking about last night. Someone saw you in the library with one of the cleaners." He stiffened. "Her name is Maya Torres. And whatever they think they saw is none of their business." "Understood." But Clara's pause lingered. "Be careful, Adrian. Appearances matter." He gave a curt nod. When she left, he whispered under his breath, "Appearances are all I've ever had." Downstairs, Maya scrubbed the marble foyer until her arms ached. The storm had left muddy footprints and gossip in equal measure. Two maids passed behind her, whispering, "Imagine him talking to her." She must have done something special to get that close. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd survived worse than whispers, but the shame still stung. Later, during her break, she slipped outside to the service yard. The ocean was calmer now, sun scattering diamonds across its surface. She pulled out her phone to check messages from the hospital. Bill overdue. Urgent response required. Her chest tightened. She typed back quickly, promising payment once the wedding job was done. When she turned, she nearly collided with Adrian. "Sorry," she murmured. He looked exhausted, sleeves rolled up, tie missing. We need to talk. I'm on the clock, Mr. Cole. I'm not asking as your employer. She crossed her arms. Then what are you asking as? His silence stretched too long. As someone who owes you an apology. About the rumors. She met his eyes. Rumors don't scare me. Rent does. That made him pause. You're behind. Don't worry about it. He hesitated, then said quietly, I want to help. You already do. You sign my paychecks. That's not what I meant. She shook her head. You can't fix everything with money. I can try. Then you still don't get it. Her voice cracked on the last word. He saw tears she refused to let fall, and something inside him broke open. That evening, as rehearsal resumed, Maya kept to the shadows. But when she stepped into the dining hall to collect trays, she overheard Julian and Victoria speaking in low tones near the bar. She's the janitor who was with him during the blackout, Victoria whispered. People are talking. Julian sighed. I'm not surprised. Adrian always finds a way to complicate things. You sound angry. I'm tired. He can't keep playing savior to people he barely knows. Not after what happened with our parents. Maya froze. What happened with their parents? Victoria lowered her voice. You never told me the details. Julian looked away. He was driving the night they died. Argued with Dad about the company. They left, furious. The car went off the road 10 minutes later. Adrian blamed himself. Still does. Maya felt her knees weaken. The weight of understanding settled heavy on her chest. The coldness, the control, it all made sense. She slipped out before they noticed her. Later that night, she found him in the garden, alone, staring at the ocean. You were driving, she said softly. He turned, startled. Who told you? It doesn't matter. Is it true? He looked back toward the waves. Yes. Then why hide it? Because people like simple stories, he said bitterly. The kind where money fixes grief. But it doesn't. It just buys quieter rooms to hate yourself in. Maya stepped closer. You think guilt honors them, but it doesn't. It just keeps you chained. He laughed quietly, brokenly. You talk like forgiveness is easy. It isn't. But it's possible. He met her eyes, searching for disbelief and finding none. The wind lifted her curls. Candlelight from the patio flickered across her skin. For the first time, he looked at her without the armor of hierarchy, just one wounded soul staring at another. Maya, he whispered, I don't deserve your kindness. Then maybe it's not about deserving, she said. Maybe it's about needing. He wanted to tell her she was right, that she'd just given him his first breath of peace in years. Instead, he said nothing, afraid words would ruin the fragile quiet between them. Inside, a pair of maids watched from the corridor, whispering again. By morning, the rumors had evolved into scandal. Whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs into laughter. When Maya entered the staff dining room, conversation stopped. She set her tray down carefully, ignoring the stares. But the humiliation burned. She wanted to scream, you don't know him. You don't know me. Instead she turned away, whispering to herself, survive this too. Adrian, hearing fragments of gossip later that day, clenched his fists. For once, his silence felt like cowardice. Have you ever learned the truth about someone and realized judgment was the easiest lie you'd ever told yourself? If you believe stories like this can still change hearts, don't leave now. Some truths need witnesses, not audiences. The morning sun broke through the storm's aftermath like a soft apology. Dew clung to every rose on the estate's terrace, and the smell of salt and wet earth hung in the air. The chaos had passed, but the tension hadn't. Maya kept to herself, working quietly in the ballroom. The gossip had grown louder, sharper, words like gold digger whispered just loud enough for her to hear. Still, she kept her head high. As she polished the glass doors, a reflection caught her eye, Adrian, standing behind her. She didn't turn. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. Neither should the lies they're telling, he replied. She finally faced him. People believe what they want to believe. That's how the world works. I can change that. By firing them? If I have to. She shook her head. Then you just prove them right. The honesty in her voice disarmed him. You're not angry? Oh, I am, she said. But anger won't feed my mother or silence a rumor. I've learned to choose my battles. Adrian studied her, something unspoken tightening in his chest. You shouldn't have to fight at all. She smiled faintly. Maybe not. But fighting's how I learned to live. That evening, as the last of the guests left the rehearsal dinner, the estate quieted. The moon cast silver lines through the windows, painting the marble floors. Maya stayed late to help the kitchen crew. Adrian found her there, sleeves rolled, hands dusted with flour. You cook too? He asked. She laughed, surprised. I eat. Cooking's the bridge. He leaned against the counter. Smells good. It's not caviar, Mr. Cole. Just bread and soup. He hesitated, then asked, Can I have some? Her eyebrows lifted. You want my cooking? I've had chefs and critics. None of them looked this honest doing it. Maya handed him a bowl and joined him at the small table by the service door. The food was simple, comforting, the kind of warmth that tasted like home. For a long while, they ate in silence. It wasn't awkward, it was human. Do you ever wish, she said quietly, that you could start over? Every day. Then why don't you? He sighed. Because I wouldn't know who to be without the guilt. She studied him, her voice soft. Maybe guilt isn't who you are. Maybe it's just the story you've been telling yourself. He looked at her, really looked. And what about you? What's the story you tell yourself? Maya hesitated, then smiled sadly. That I have to keep moving, or I'll disappear. Do you believe it? Sometimes. He leaned forward, his voice a whisper. Then let me see you. Really see you. The words hung between them like a prayer. Outside, the rain began again, light, forgiving. Adrian reached across the table, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't flinch. Maya, he started, his voice trembling. You don't have to say it, she whispered. But I want to. Her eyes met his, cautious, hopeful, afraid. I don't know when it happened, he continued, but somewhere between your silence and your strength, you reminded me what it feels like to be human. Her breath caught. Adrian. He touched her hand, fingers grazing skin. The connection was electric, fragile, real. For the first time, he didn't hide. They walked later through the garden, the world quiet except for the sea and the rustling leaves. Maya stopped near the edge of the cliff. I used to come here after my shifts, she said. Pretend the ocean could wash everything away. What do you pretend now? That I deserve peace. He stepped beside her. You do. You too. Their hands brushed, not by accident this time. The moment stretched, suspended in the sound of the tide. He turned toward her, his voice low. You've changed everything I thought I knew about love. And you've changed nothing I know about pain, she said, smiling softly. But you're learning. He laughed quietly, the sound mixing with the wind. Then, without planning it, he kissed her, slow, uncertain, reverent. She didn't resist. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. They pulled apart, eyes wet, hearts unsteady. What now? She whispered. He swallowed hard. Now I stop being afraid. Of what? Of being worth loving. Her hand rested on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath the fabric. You already are. The simplicity of it undid him. He closed his eyes, letting the truth sink in. Later, as the storm eased, they sat together under the veranda, wrapped in a single blanket. They said nothing, but the silence spoke volumes. In that quiet, both found something they hadn't realized they'd lost: peace. It was fleeting, fragile, but it was theirs. Have you ever found calm with someone right before life tried to take it away? If you felt that peace between them, if you still believe love can make the broken whole, don't walk away. Stay. Maybe you were meant to see this part. The day of the wedding dawned in a blur of gold and nerves. The sky was a perfect blue, too perfect, mocking how close everything was to breaking. Maya had barely slept. Her uniform felt heavier than ever, every whispered laugh from the staff pressed like a bruise. She kept her head down, pretending not to hear the latest rumor, the janitor and the billionaire. Inside, florists hurried, chefs barked orders, and string instruments tuned for the ceremony. Everything gleamed, except the people. Adrian moved through the house like a man in exile. The night before still burned in him, her touch, her words, the taste of something that felt like redemption. He wanted to hold it quietly, protect it from the world. But the world was already watching. He found Julian on the balcony, tying his cufflinks with nervous precision. "You ready?" Adrian asked. Julian glanced up, eyes wary. "As I'll ever be." "You? For what?" "To finally let someone love you." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Don't start." Julian set his cufflink down. "You always think I'm attacking you. I'm not. I just don't want to see you ruin something again." Adrian frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Julian hesitated, then said it. "I saw you with her, Adrian. The janitor." Adrian's chest went cold. "You were watching me?" "I didn't have to. Everyone's talking. You've got people whispering about you in your own house, on my wedding day." "I don't care what they say." "You should. Because when you drag someone like her into this world, she's the one who gets hurt." The words hit like a blow. Julian's tone softened. "You think you're protecting her, but you're not. You're just setting her up to take the fall for your guilt." Adrian's fists clenched. "You don't know her." "I know you," Julian said quietly. "And you destroy what you touch when you can't face yourself." He walked away, leaving Adrian staring out at the sea, trembling with anger he couldn't name. In the ballroom, Maya worked silently, adjusting the last of the decorations. Her heart still carried last night's warmth, but her mind whispered caution. She was invisible again, maybe it was safer that way. Then Victoria approached, the perfect bride, voice sweet and edged like glass. "Ms. Torres, right? I wanted to thank you for everything you've done." Maya smiled politely. "Of course, ma'am." Victoria leaned closer. "I also wanted to warn you. This family is complicated. Adrian has habits. People get hurt." Maya's throat tightened. "I'm not part of his habits." Victoria's smile sharpened. "Then stay that way." She turned and glided off, veil trailing like smoke. Maya stood frozen. The shame she'd spent years burying crawled back up her throat. Maybe they were right. Maybe she didn't belong here. Minutes later, she passed the open doorway of the balcony. She heard voices, Adrian's, tense and raised. "Don't talk about her that way." "Then tell me it isn't true," Julian shot back. "I care about her." Julian laughed bitterly. "You care about saving her because you can't save yourself." Maya froze in the hall, heart cracking. She turned away before she could hear more, running down the back stairs. By the time Adrian found her near the garden entrance, her eyes were red. "Maya, wait." She stopped but didn't face him. "Don't. Please." He stepped closer. "Whatever you heard. It's not what you said, Adrian. It's what you didn't. You didn't defend me." "I did. She turned now, voice trembling. "You let them talk like I was nothing. Do you know what it feels like to fight your whole life to be seen, and the one person who did see you suddenly looks away?" His words tangled in his throat. "I was trying to protect you. By hiding me. I didn't want to make things worse. They already are." The wind rose between them, carrying the sound of waves crashing below. "Maya, Stop." Her tears finally fell. "You think love is control. It's not. It's the opposite." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "You can't fix this with apologies. You can't fix me with your guilt." And before he could stop her, she turned and walked away, down the path toward the staff quarters, disappearing into the sunlight. Adrian stood motionless, the echo of her footsteps fading. For years, he'd been proud of feeling nothing. Now the emptiness hurt. Inside, the music for the ceremony began, soft and distant. He should have been standing beside his brother, smiling for cameras, playing the part of the perfect man. Instead, he felt hollow, stripped, human. He whispered to no one, "I should have fought for her." The ocean answered with silence. Have you ever loved someone and realized too late that silence can wound more than words? If your heart cracked even a little for them, don't turn away. Staying is a way of saying love like this still matters. The celebration should have been beautiful. Music floated through the coal estate like perfume, and the guests applauded as Julian and Victoria exchanged vows beneath a canopy of orchids. Yet Adrian stood at the edge of the crowd, applause echoing like thunder in his skull. He didn't hear the words. He only saw the empty space at the back of the garden where Maya should have been. Her absence was louder than the orchestra. When the ceremony ended, he slipped away, ignoring the guests calling his name. Inside the quiet of the study, the sound of rain began again, light this time, almost forgiving. He stared at his reflection in the window. The man looking back was every version of him he'd ever hated, proud, afraid, silent. He poured a drink but didn't touch it. She was right, he whispered. I hid her. I hid everything. The stormlight flashed over the desk where a small silver bracelet lay, one Maya had forgotten in the library the night of the blackout. He picked it up carefully, the metal cold against his palm. Go find her, something inside him said. For once, choose something real. But the old voice, the one built from guilt and wealth and fear, answered, you'll only ruin her more. He sank into the chair, torn between the two. At the workers' lodging across the estate, Maya packed her few belongings into a duffel. The sound of laughter from the wedding drifted through the rain like a cruel reminder. Her hands trembled over a framed photo of her mother, smiling despite the oxygen tubes. Mama, she whispered, I almost believed he saw me. Her phone buzzed with a hospital alert, another bill past due. The number made her stomach twist. She closed her eyes. I just wanted to be enough for once. Outside, the shuttle bus honked, the evening ride back into town. She zipped the bag, pulled on her jacket, and stepped into the downpour. Adrian paced the hall, unable to breathe. Julian entered, his tie loosened, face softer now. You're not with the guests? Julian asked. Adrian shook his head. Julian sighed. She's leaving, you know. Adrian froze. What? One of the drivers mentioned seeing her by the south gate. Adrian's heart kicked hard. She can't. Go, Julian interrupted. You've spent your whole life running from what you feel. Don't let this be another grave you build. For the first time in years, Adrian hugged his brother, quick, fierce, unspoken forgiveness passing between them. Then he ran. The estate grounds blurred under the storm. His shoes sank into mud, lightning forked over the ocean. He called her name once, twice. At the gate, he saw the shuttle idling, its headlights cutting through the downpour. Inside, Maya sat by the window, staring out at the dark road ahead. He reached the bus just as it began to move, slamming his palm against the door. Wait. The driver braked, startled. Maya turned, eyes wide. Adrian stepped inside, soaked, breathless. The guests at the front gawked, but he didn't care. Maya, he said, voice breaking, don't go. She stood slowly, clutching her bag. Why shouldn't I? You already made your choice. He shook his head. No. I made my excuses. Same thing. Not anymore. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair onto the floor. I was a coward. I thought protecting you meant keeping you hidden. I was wrong. You made me want to be seen, and that terrified me. Her eyes shimmered. And what happens when the world laughs at you for choosing me? Then let them laugh, he said. They've been laughing at my emptiness for years anyway. She looked away, fighting tears. You think saying that fixes it? No, he said softly. But maybe showing you does. He reached into his pocket and pulled out her bracelet. You left this. I kept it because it's the first thing in my house that ever felt alive. He placed it in her hand, closing her fingers around it. If you walk away, I'll understand. But if you stay, I swear I'll never make you feel invisible again. Silence filled the bus, heavy and sacred. Maya's heart pounded. For the first time, she saw him stripped of control, no suit of armor, no empire behind him, just a man trying to learn how to love. She whispered, You always have to fix things, don't you? He smiled faintly. Only the ones worth keeping. The driver cleared his throat. So are we going? Maya exhaled a shaky laugh. Not tonight. She stepped down from the bus, the rain instantly soaking through her clothes. Adrian followed, relief trembling in his smile. They stood there under the storm, wordless. Then she reached out, took his hand, and led him back toward the mansion. Inside, the music from the reception swelled, distant, almost cinematic. Maya squeezed his hand once. Go tell your brother you forgive yourself. And you? He asked. I already have. Have you ever had to choose between pride and peace, and finally realized love was the only real victory? If this moment made you believe people can still run back into the rain for love, don't walk away now. Stay. Some stories deserve to be finished. The rain eased by morning, leaving the world rinsed and trembling. Mist rose from the cliffs, drifting like breath over the ocean. The Cole estate lay scattered with petals and champagne glasses, ghosts of the celebration that had carried on without them. Adrian and Maya walked the path back to the house in silence, hands still clasped, their soaked clothes clinging to skin. Every step felt fragile, sacred, as if they might break the spell if they spoke too soon. When they reached the veranda, Julian waited. His tuxedo jacket hung open, hair damp, eyes tired but kind. You found her, he said. Adrian nodded. I almost didn't. Julian's smile was small. Then maybe you finally learned something Father never did, how to fight for the living instead of the dead. For the first time in years, Adrian pulled his brother into an embrace. The tension that had sat between them since the accident dissolved like salt in water. Julian, he murmured, I'm sorry. I know, Julian said. Now stop being. They both laughed, shaky and relieved. Maya stepped quietly back, giving them space. Watching them, she felt the weight in her chest lift. Guilt had been replaced by grace. When Adrian turned toward her, there was no pretense left. You changed everything, he said simply. She smiled. You just had to see what was always there. The sunlight broke through the clouds, catching the sea until it glittered like forgiveness itself. The wedding guests had gone, leaving only scattered petals and the hum of cleanup crews. Maya helped fold tablecloths, refusing special treatment despite Clara's protests. You don't have to do this, Clara said. Maya grinned. Work keeps me grounded. Besides, I promised to finish the job. Adrian appeared then, no tie, sleeves rolled, a tray of coffee cups in hand. The staff froze, staring, their famously distant boss serving coffee to the janitors. He caught their surprise and said simply, Seems fair, doesn't it? A ripple of awkward laughter followed, then genuine smiles. The tension that had hung over the house finally lifted. Maya met his eyes across the room, pride warming her chest. He wasn't hiding anymore. A week later, they walked side by side down a quiet hospital corridor. Adrian carried a small bouquet, Maya held her mother's favorite blanket. Mrs. Torres, frail but radiant, smiled as they entered. So this is the man who makes my daughter forget to sleep. Maya blushed. Mama. Adrian chuckled softly. Guilty, ma'am. But I'm hoping to make it up to her. Mrs. Torres studied him. The expensive watch, the careful posture, the eyes that looked genuinely afraid to disappoint. Be gentle with her, she said. She's stronger than she knows, but even strong things break when handled without care. He nodded. I'll remember. Months passed. The tabloids tried and failed to turn their story into scandal. The photos of the millionaire and the janitor only made them more beloved. Adrian refused interviews. He'd say, the truth doesn't need headlines. At the office, he promoted from within, doubled wages, and installed a fund for employee education in his parents' name. When a reporter asked what had inspired the change, he said, a woman who reminded me that value isn't inherited, it's lived. Maya started night classes in business management. On evenings when she studied at the penthouse, Adrian cooked, badly, while she laughed and corrected his mistakes. Their love wasn't loud or perfect, it was steady, ordinary in the best way. One winter night, he found her on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, humming that same melody he'd once heard in an elevator. He stepped behind her, arms encircling her waist. You still sing when you think no one's listening. She smiled against his chest. Old habits. I'm listening now. She turned in his arms. Do you ever think about how it started? A job, a storm, a mess. And everything that mattered after, he said. Funny how grace looks like coincidence when it begins. He slid a small velvet box from his pocket. Maya Torres, will you let me keep building a life we don't have to hide? Her eyes filled. Yes. But only if it comes with equal pay for the janitors. He laughed through the tears. Deal. The ring was simple, a band of silver, like the bracelet she'd once left behind. It gleamed between their joined hands, a symbol not of wealth, but of seeing. A year later, the Cole estate hosted another wedding theirs. The same ocean, the same cliffs, but a different kind of perfection. Julian served as best man, his speech short and heartfelt. My brother finally stopped managing love like a business. Maya's mother sat in the front row, radiant in a coral shawl. When Adrian and Maya exchanged vows, the guests fell silent. I once thought love was control, Adrian said. Then you showed me it's surrender. Maya's voice trembled. I once thought being seen meant being judged. Then you looked at me and I finally saw myself. They kissed as the waves broke below, the sky clear, the world righted. That night, under strings of golden lights, they danced barefoot on the wet grass. Storms end, Maya whispered. Only when we stop running, Adrian said. The wind carried their laughter across the cliffs, mingling with the sea, a song of redemption, belonging, and love found at last. Have you ever realized that the people who change us most aren't the ones we expected to meet, but the ones who made us feel seen? If this ending reminded you that love can heal even the coldest hearts, maybe you were meant to stay. Because stories like this aren't just told, they're lived every day.
Thank you for staying with this story to the very end. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll not miss out on the next video.